listened to the story about haunted dolls and just had to share mine. I know they aren't your favorite, so sorry, Mandy. Oh, spectacular. Let's dive into today's story. I didn't play with or collect dolls as a kid, but my sister did. She had everything from porcelain dolls to those American Girl ones, barbies, and even one of those babies that cried and you had to stick a key in its back. When I brought one home for health class, she fell in love with it, and my parents actually bought her one to play with. Frankly, dolls have always creeped me out, but especially porcelain dolls. Don't get me started on how creepy they are. I couldn't sleep in my sister's room. She always had to sleep in mine if we wanted to have a sleepover, because she had dolls everywhere, and I felt like they were all staring at me. My mom thought it would be a great idea to get a curio cabinet to put in the hallway outside my sister's room to display her porcelain doll collection. I protested, but there wasn't room in her bedroom for it. About 2 days after the cabinet was delivered, she arranged her dolls in it. I walked past the cabinet and felt like all their tiny, beady eyes were following me. Okay, cool it. They're just dolls, I reminded myself. There was this one particularly creepy one in her collection, with a white and pink dress. It was my sister's favorite of the porcelain collection, but it was the one I hated the most. One day, as I was walking past the cabinet, I glanced in because it was hard not to. The doll in the pink and white dress was sitting while the rest were standing. I had walked past the cabinet at least 5 times in the previous 2 days, and I swore all of them were standing. Why would she leave one sitting? That would make no sense. The doll had a stand, so I knew she was capable of standing like the others. I was 99% sure she was standing just 12 hours prior when I walked by the case, but I tried to ignore the creeped out feeling. By the time a few days passed, I had completely forgotten about it, until one afternoon I was heading to my room to do homework, and the same doll was outside the doll case. Oh, really funny, Jody, I thought, figuring it was my sister's cruel way of playing a prank on me. I bumped into Jody in the hallway a couple hours later and said, "Nice try, but your little doll pranks aren't going to scare me." "What doll prank?" Jody replied. "You put the doll in the pink and white dress outside the cabinet to scare me," I said. "No, I didn't. Seriously. I haven't touched the case since I put them in there," she said. I could tell she wasn't lying. My sister was a terrible liar, so I knew she didn't do it. Realizing that made me even more on edge. How does a doll get out of a case if someone didn't pick it up and put it there? I shudder now just thinking about it, because I know what's still to come. I had a hard time brushing that one off since I knew Jody wasn't lying. But I didn't really have a choice. What else could I do? A few days passed without any problems. I didn't forget about the incidences, but they were pushed further and further from my mind, as I was busy with schoolwork and extracurricular activities. But that quickly changed 4 nights later. It was a Saturday, so we didn't have to do homework. I had just been listening to music and video chatting with my friends all evening after my weekend chores were done. I was a teenager at the time, so I had a habit of pushing the boundaries of bedtime. Finally, about midnight, I laid down and began drifting off to sleep. But I immediately began having a nightmare. I can't remember the details of the nightmares I had that night, but I know I was terrified enough to wake up sweating and with tears rolling down my face. Shaken up, I sat up in bed and took a few sips of water, physically shaking. I felt unsettled, not just about the nightmares, but all evening I had just an unsettled feeling. I would soon understand the unsettled feeling I was experiencing. I fell back to sleep for an unknown amount of time. I was jolted awake from the faint sound of knocking on my bedroom door. I rolled out of bed, lightly shouting, "Come in," thinking it must be my sister coming in because she had a nightmare. She did that sometimes. But she didn't come in. I heard another very short, very faint, possible knocking noise before reaching my door. When I opened the door, there was no one there. As I stepped out to see if my sister was okay, I felt something hard under my foot. Wincing in pain, I lifted my foot up and let out a scream. There, where my foot had just stepped, was the porcelain doll with the white and pink dress. I kicked the doll a few feet forward and kept going towards my sister's room, ready to flip out on her for such a cruel joke. But my sister wasn't in her room. I peered over the railing and she was fast asleep on the couch downstairs. The movie she had fallen asleep watching was over now and the screen was back on the Netflix home, so she'd been asleep for quite some time. I threw such a fit that my parents finally made my sister store the doll at our aunt's house. My aunt loved things like that, haunted things. I didn't want to ever see that stupid doll again, and I haven't. I grilled my sister, making sure she wasn't pretending to be asleep after planting the doll and running back downstairs. But my mom has vouched for her, saying she was asleep hours before the incident, and about half an hour before, Mom had been out to get a glass of water and Jody was still fast asleep in the same position. Despite my better judgment, I keep reading these doll stories. As you know by now, I'm not a fan of them. Dolls, that is. At all. In fact, I can't stand them. They're way too creepy. But thank you for sharing your story. I would have shipped the doll off after that, too. If you have a paranormal story to share, email it to the address in the description below. Please like and share if you haven't. It helps us dig our way up out of the trenches. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.